All right, so I'm going to seamlessly segue into a song about Paul Revere. So I'm a history nerd. Any history nerds out there? Yeah. So back in the time when I was a straight no chaser, this was probably 2010, give or take. We were in Boston. We had a show in Boston, and I was killing time walking the Freedom Trail in Boston. My trainer Pat is here. He's from Boston. Shout out to Pat. And I stumbled into one of the oldest cemeteries in Boston. It's called Granary Burying Ground, and guys like Samuel Adams, John Hancock, everybody who died in the Boston Massacre, and Paul Revere are buried there. And I remembered walking by his grave and almost just not even noticing it first, because it's not even like a foot high. It's about a foot and a half high. And it's super humble, because when I pass by it, I'm like, wait a second, I'm supposed to know about this guy. You know, like, one if by land, two if by sea, the British are coming. And it was so humble, and it struck me in that moment that I really wanted to learn more about Paul Revere's story. What I learned was that actually I had been in that cemetery like 30 years prior as a school kid when we were stationed in Newport, Rhode Island, and I would go up there to Boston for school field trips and stuff. And it was just this really weird, cool day of history and patriotism and memories and nostalgia. And I went back and I wrote this next song that I'm going to perform for you. And I wanted to kind of present this song not about Paul and his story, but from Paul Revere's perspective. I'm a huge James Taylor fan. He wrote a song called The Frozen Man that inspired the way that I kind of sang and wrote this song from his perspective. And I thought, what would a guy that we literally know one thing about say to us now? Paul had a whole life. He had a family. He loved his country. But he hung those lanterns in the church, you know, one if by land, two if by sea. And that's all we know about him because of a poem that was written about him 100 years later that was essentially a tall tale. And I wanted to go back to that early story about Paul. And I just have fallen in love with his story. And I know this song is very, very niche. But it's my favorite song that I've ever written. And the band sounds amazing on it. And this is called Granary. Enjoy. Made my home in Massachusetts with my children and wife. Early in the morning, forlorn I walk the streets till I'm lost in Boston Harbor, looking for my legacy. One if by land and two if by sea. Maybe all you've ever heard or read of me. But I was more a man than my tombstone reads. It's just history, it's not all of me. Here amongst my brother's bones in Boston I lie, in the shadow of a steeple, in the legend of that night. We were patriots and martyrs, some farmers, some thieves. Hear the drums of revolution as they echo through the leaves. One if by land and two if by sea. Maybe all you've ever heard or read of me. But I was more a man than my tombstone reads. It's just history, it's not all of me. Pay no mind to the tall tales that were told about my life, like the poem by that fellow who took liberty with my right. For I was just a silversmith who did what he had to do for his family and country. Am I any different than you? One if by land and two if by sea. Maybe all you've ever heard or read of me. I was more a man than my tombstone reads. It's just history, it's not all of me. And though you may revere me as a man of high degree, I'll be underneath the dandelions here in Granary. All right, I'm going to bring Laura.